All right, guys, we have some major updates to get to around the NFL on this fine Saturday afternoon. Just got done watching Interstellar. What an amazing vibe it is. But, guys, Kadarius Toney looks like he's headed out of New York, or at least they're shopping him. The former first-round pick just a year ago is on the trade block. The New York Daily News is reporting they are, quote, looking to trade Kadarius Toney. Very weird year for Toney. He played that great game in Dallas. I'm sure a lot of fantasy fans remember, like 12 catches or something like that. Everyone picks him up off the waiver wire, and then he disappears. My guess is right now the Giants could probably get a mid-third for him. He's got major off-the-field issues. He hasn't shown up for their training camp. It says he's yet to report. So, Kadarius Toney, if you're the Giants, you are selling at an all-time low. Their relationship with him right now apparently is fractured, and what a bad pick that was. It was a major reach. You could see why they did it. I mean, when he was out there, he showed amazing potential. If I'm a Giants fan at this point, I mean, think about it. Saquon Barkley, second overall. What do you think the Giants could get for Saquon Barkley right now? Maybe a late second, early third round pick, maybe, based on Barkley's injury proneness. And then Kadarius Toney's just another one. This is a terrible job by the New York Giants front office, turning, a guy you drafted in the first round just a year ago into what this is. This reminds me of how the Seattle Seahawks have used their first round picks recently. They have been god-awful, the Seahawks have, with their first-round picks, where the player is basically useless just 1 year later. Just 1 year later, Kadarius Toney. We'll see if he gets traded. Will the Giants bite the bullet and say, you know what, we're going to admit we got this pick completely wrong, and we're just going to trade him for a third-round pick? That would be a terrible look. That would be really bad for their fan base, but it might, the relationship with Toney might be fractured enough, and then you've got another team looking at him and saying, listen, this is a guy as a rookie. He showed out in a few games. He was playing really well in another game. I believe he had like 5 catches in the first quarter, then got injured. But other than that, yeah, Kadarius Toney, it's not looking good. His relationship with the Giants, not good right now. We'll see if they end up trading him. They certainly aren't getting a first or a second round pick back for him. There maybe a team like the Chiefs gets desperate and trades a late second rounder, but I don't even know if Mahomes would want him with what he's shown in terms of not showing up to these camps and things like that, being kind of a nuisance in terms of a off-the-field issue. The QB Wonderlic Scores are out. They've reported them. This is from yesterday. You guys can see the Wonderlic Scores. When I took the Wonderlic, I scored a 39. I don't like bragging about it. It's whatever. But these are the overall scores. Bailey Zappi. I love Bailey Zappi. Whoever gets Bailey Zappi in the third or fourth round, it's amazing. People, they're using the whole Western Kentucky thing as a knock. Yes, there have been other Western Kentucky quarterbacks that put up major numbers in college and then flop in the NFL, but Bailey Zappi has a legitimate strong arm, and he's actually mobile and athletic. He scores a 35 on the Wonderlic. Sam Howell, there's been no talk recently about Sam Howell. He had a bad junior year, but he scores a 34. I still think he has some Baker Mayfield in him. We'll get to Baker Mayfield news here in a second. Malik Willis scores a 32. He is going to be the first quarterback off the board. Extremely likely. Very good score from Malik Willis. Carson Strong with a 22. I love Carson Strong. 22 is a very average score. There's nothing wrong with that. Desmond Ridder, a little bit of a surprise here. Desmond Ridder is a guy that's kind of been talked up as being a leader, having that smarts, that leadership. He scores a 19. If you were to ask me, who would score the highest, I would probably say Desmond Ridder would score at least a 30, but he scored a 19. Kenny Pickett with a 17, and then Matt Corral, that's the big one, with just a 15. And the main story on Matt Corral, it's really confused me why Matt Corral is moving down boards. This might be a reason. There was also a report that Matt Corral, recently we received a report that Matt Corral has some off-the-field questions, people questioning Matt Corral in that sense. So I guess that lends to the idea that Matt Corral is moving down the boards. He is my number 3 quarterback. I think he's a first-round type player. He's a better prospect than Kenny Pickett. I think he'll have a better pro career than Kenny Pickett. Kenny Pickett is going to be a major bust no matter where he goes in terms of the draft, although I do expect it. You know, if you were to ask me right now, Malik Willis is the number 1 quarterback off the board, early to mid first round, then Kenny Pickett, and then probably Matt Corral at this point. Also, Desmond Ridder. Desmond Ridder has been getting a lot of hype recently. I think Desmond Ridder is a high floor, low ceiling kind of guy with an NFL comp to Carson Wentz. That's my view of Desmond Ridder. We've got some Baker Mayfield news. It looks like the Seattle Seahawks are, quote, very much still in the mix to trade for Baker Mayfield. I am very confused with what the Seahawks are doing in terms of their future quarterback situation. If you're going to keep DK Metcalf and you're going to want to extend him to a long-term deal, you should go out and get someone like Baker Mayfield. You can't go into the regular season with a Geno Smith at quarterback. You know, if you want to contend, go out, trade for Baker Mayfield. He was injured this past year. He's shown the ability to be a top 12 or a top 13 quarterback. You're not going to have to give up much. At this point, the Browns are going to eat some of Mayfield's $18 million salary next year anyways. Go trade a 3rd or a 4th round pick for Mayfield. Take a 1-year flyer on him. Personally, that is not what I would do. I would do a 1-year teardown where I trade DK Metcalf for a 1st round pick. I trade Tyler Lockett for a 2nd round pick. I tank this year and I draft either CJ Stroud or Bryce Young next year with the number 1 or number 2 overall pick. That's what I would do. I think that's what the Atlanta Falcons are doing, by the way. But it looks like maybe they want to keep DK Metcalf. If you keep DK Metcalf, go trade for Baker Mayfield. This is a good situation for him to be in. You do need some offensive linemen. You've got the number 9 overall pick. There, you know, maybe someone like Trevor Penning. If I was a Seahawks fan, I would be deathly afraid right now if they do draft Charles Cross. He has showed up on several of my most overrated players list, the offensive tackle from Mississippi State. I'm not a fan of Charles Cross, but that is just an update on Baker Mayfield. And then I wanted to get to this Deebo Samuel news that came out yesterday from Ian Rappaport. Ian Rappaport's NFL Network, Ian Rappaport stated Deebo Samuel essentially told the 49ers not to make a contract offer and that he just wants to be traded. Personally, my first reaction is this report makes no sense. And I think Rappaport is getting some bad intel here. To me, it's like, how did the relationship between Deebo Samuel and the 49ers get so bad so fast with literally nothing getting leaked? I mean, it was perfect for Deebo Samuel. He was getting so many touches. He was catching passes. He had a career year. And then all of a sudden, he's saying, you know what? Don't even make me a contract offer. Our relationship is so fractured. Just trade me. So it's a full-blown trade request now? This is very hard to understand, and I think Deebo Samuel demanded the trade basically to tell the 49ers, listen, I'm not playing under this current contract. I want a new contract before I step out on the field. I'm not willing to risk my future. If I only have a 1-year deal, I go out there next year, get injured, I'm screwed. That's what I thought this was, but apparently Ian Rappaport is saying, no, Deebo Samuel just hates the 49ers. That's what Ian Rappaport is saying. Really weird stuff. I don't know. Maybe it's a bad report, but it's like, how does Deebo Samuel and the 49ers relationship get this fractured this fast with really nothing what happened? I mean, Deebo Samuel was getting all the touches in the world. He was catching passes. He was upping his value so much. He was the clear number 1 receiver and basically the number 1 running back. So it's a very weird situation, but if this report is true and Deebo Samuel's relationship with the 49ers is this fractured, that is a shock, and they're going to have to try and get a 1st-round pick for him, and then we'll have to see what happens after that. But very interesting stuff there with Deebo. A quick thing here on Kyler Murray. Mike Floria believes no one would be willing to offer major assets for Kyler Murray to pay Murray like an elite quarterback. So the Cardinals are in such a bad situation with, well, I don't know if they're in a bad situation, but they're going to have to make a decision. Kyler Murray wants a new contract already. It's kind of like the idea, I was just thinking about this in my head. Imagine if Justin Herbert said tomorrow, I'm not playing unless I get a new contract. Like the Chargers, these quarterbacks are starting to realize they have all the leverage when you show you're a franchise quarterback. And Kyler Murray has proven he's a franchise quarterback. But the situation with Kyler Murray, it's a big risk because of how small Kyler Murray is. He hasn't gotten injured yet. We understand that. But he's just a very small overall quarterback. So do you want to commit $40 million per year to Kyler Murray at this point? It's very tough, but Murray and his agent saw an opportunity. They said, listen, I'm a franchise quarterback. I've proved it. I have negotiation leverage. You need to get me a new contract or else I'm not playing. I'm not going to go out there and risk a season-ending injury and possibly lowering my overall value. So he wants a new contract 2 years before his contract even expires. Crazy situation. I wonder if other quarterbacks are going to do this like a Justin Herbert. And then there's actually the other idea, which teams will not do this, but it's an interesting theory, and I'm going to try and explain this as best as I can. If I was the Chargers, I would, you already know Justin Herbert is a franchise quarterback. I would almost approach Justin Herbert right now with a contract extension. Because think about it, you know you're going to have to extend him. You know he's going to want to be the highest paid player per year in the NFL. And you also know the salary cap is going up. So why not go to Justin Herbert right now and say, listen, we will give you more money up front. We will pay you $43 million per year, instead of waiting 2 years for when the cap goes through the moon, and now you're forced to pay Justin Herbert $55 million per year. That Patrick Mahomes contract that he signed in 2 or 3 years when the cap rises significantly, that contract's going to look really, really, really good. The Deshaun Watson contract is crazy with the Browns, but it's not going to look horrible in a few years. The point is, don't do what Jerry Jones and the Dallas Cowboys did, where they got pigeonholed and Dak Prescott was like, listen, I'm a free agent. You got to pay me $45 million. They could have gotten Dak if they would have just done it a year earlier for probably $35 million per year if you just do it the year earlier. So this is a very interesting situation. The idea of kind of extending your franchise quarterback years before he's due a new contract. And I think the real 3D move is, and people are going to call me crazy for this, I would go, if I'm the Jacksonville Jaguars, I would go to Trevor Lawrence right now and I would be like, hey, we can lock you in for 8 years at around $25 million per year. You get security. No, you haven't proven it yet, but we believe in you and we'll give you $25 million per year. If Trevor Lawrence turns into a franchise quarterback by year 3 or year 4, like pretty much everyone expects, $25 million per year for a franchise quarterback is an absolute steal. I'm not saying Trevor Lawrence would do it, but I would go to him if I was the Jaguars and say, listen, we can give you security. You haven't proven anything yet, but we will give you something because we believe in you. And I would offer Trevor Lawrence like a 4-year extension on top of the 5-year contract he already has because of his rookie deal. So his rookie deal is a 4-year, and then you get the player option for the 5th year, and then I would sign him for 4 more years at maybe around $25 million per year. That's an idea, and people say, why would you do that? Trevor Lawrence was terrible his rookie year, but we expect him to be unbelievable in the future, and if he turns into a franchise quarterback, that's a steal. If he's a bust, it's a terrible contract. Maybe you can defer some of the money. Maybe you can turn some of it into a signing bonus. But that's kind of the new age of contracts. It's what the MLB is doing. Look at Ronald Acuna's contract. You look at some of these players. Ozzie Albies is another one where they will extend these guys when they have 4 or 5 years remaining on their current deals. They'll extend them at a lower rate than instead of letting them hit free agency and having to pay them, $35, $40 million per year. So it's an interesting idea. it is a risk, like with someone like Trevor Lawrence, but like Justin Herbert, I would be offering Justin Herbert like a $45 million 4-year extension per year. Right now, I'd do it. But the Chargers decided to spend their money on, on Mike Williams, on other things. They're also paying Keenan Allen a lot. They're also paying Joey Bosa a lot. So that could complicate it a little bit. I understand that. I'm just saying it's something interesting. This whole Kyler Murray situation where he's demanding a new contract with 2 years left, it's really got me thinking of a new way to do NFL contracts. But guys, that is going to do it for this video. Make sure you're following me on Twitter. Link to that's always in the description.